Greetings to everyone who is perceiving it across the globe. Regardless of which field of endeavor you may have, CSC, triple or C, well, you must have a strong command of probability and statistics, which is a mandatory course and also have insurmountable importance in the field of research. To your utter if any, I tell you, many of your friends or fellow classmates may still stammer on this fundamental lecture of solving test of hypothesis. So without any further ado, let's get started. The first question that may hover in your mind is, what is test of hypothesis and why should we be apprehensive about that? The major purpose of hypothesis testing is to choose between two competing hypotheses about the value of a population parameter. In other word or simple word, test of hypothesis allows you to affirm whether your assumption from data is acceptable or should be disregarded. Solving the test of hypothesis, we articulate the rules in 5 steps. As you can clearly see, in step 1, you state the null and the alternative hypothesis. In step 2, you set the level of significance, usually denoted by alpha, and if not mentioned, you assume it as 5%. In step 3, you collect the data and define a test statistics and then compute it. In step 4, construct the acceptance or the rejection region by collecting the tabulated value. In step 5, based on step 3 and step 4, you draw a conclusion. If the z-calc or the t-calc is greater than z-alpha or t-alpha, then you reject the null hypothesis. Otherwise, you accept it. So that in mean test, if the sigma square is known, then you use the z-calc formula. If the sigma square is unknown, then if the sample size is greater than, or the number of data you have collected is greater than 30, then you use the z-calc formula. If the number of data or the sample is less than 30, then you use the t-calc formula, as you can see. So these were the laconic theory part. Hope you got an apt idea. Now let's solve a problem. As you can see the problem, individual filing federal income tax return prior to March 31st had an average refund of $1,056. Consider the population of last-minute filer who mailed their returns during the last 5 days of the income tax period, typically the duration is April 10th to April 15th. So a researcher suggests that one of the reasons individuals wait until the last 5 days to file their return is that on average those individuals have greater important information are highlighted, as you can clearly see. You should do this in the exam hall in similar manner. Had a greater refund than earlier filers. So these are the 4 steps question. As you can clearly see in step A they ask you develop an appropriate hypothesis. So the hypothesis, as you can clearly see highlighted from the information, the null is it can be less than or equals to 1056, and the alternative which the researcher suggested, the alternative is always the suggestion or the prediction is that it should be greater than the earlier filer. So it should be greater than 1056. So these were the non-alternative. Now in B, using 5% level of significance clearly mentioned. So what is the critical value of the test statistics and what is the rejection rule? Since here the number of sample is greater than 30, so the critical value for the test Z statistics at 5% level of significance from Z table you can clearly find it is 1.645. You can also use calculator, there are shortcuts available. So you will find that Z value is 1.645. So the rejection rule is that if H naught if the z-calc is greater than 1.645, then you reject it. For instance, your z value, this is 0. So if it is greater than, here it is 1.645. So if you get the z-calc as 2, it is greater than 1.645. So you reject it. Somewhere between this. If you get it, then you reject it. So I don't know, but we'll see in step C. C for here it is clearly mentioned. that a sample number of 400 individuals who filed a return between April 10th to 15th, the sample had a mean refund of $910. So the mean is values given and the standard deviation is 1600. So compute the value of Z stats. So we since the number of n sample is greater than 30, so you as per the theory as I mentioned earlier, so you should use Z-calc formula. So using the Z-calc formula, we get a Z value of minus 1.825. Always take the modulus value to compare. This makes the life way more easier. I will tell it later. But so Z-calc, if you take the mod value, Z-calc is 1.825, which is greater than 1. Z alpha value, which is 1.645. So since it is greater, as per our theory, we should reject it. Reject the null hypothesis or accept the alternative. So what is the conclusion? We can conclude that at 95% confidence level, we may reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative. So conclusion, I hope this laconic recapitulation of solving test of hypothesis aided to resolve any ambivalence you have regarding this topic. I tried to amalgamate this forthright lecture through profound research, but if you have any travel matters, please be oblivious about them. But definitely for any queries or suggestion in areas where we can improve, comment or mail. We highly appreciate it. And at the end, I'd like to mention my professor, Dr. Muhammad Rizal Karim, who enlightened me with suffice knowledge which aided in articulated in this lecture. And the two reference book that you may follow is Probability and Statistics for Engineer and Scientists, 4th edition, and Statistics for Business and Economics, 11th edition, or any other edition that you can conveniently find. Thank you everyone for listening. Take care.